there's an element of luck in trading. Hey, it's Walter here, and you're at the Think Profit podcast, where we're going to help you develop a rock-solid trading confidence and avoid the potentially endless cycle of system switching. Right, Hugh?
That's right. We're going to help you develop a wealth mindset, develop a trading strategy that fits your core personality, and help you overcome the obstacles that stop over 90% of traders.
All right, Hugh, sounds good. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do this.
Hey, Walter, let's talk about the perfection trap. I think a lot of traders fall into that and they think that there's a perfect trading strategy or like something that doesn't lose or whatever. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm working with a trader right now, and I think she's basically what tends to happen is, and she's doing really well, but I think this is a common thing. What she'll do is she'll send me images of her charts and say, "What would you do here?" Or "Is this a good X trade?" Right?
Mhm.
And it's exactly what you're talking about, because I'm like, look, I can tell you what I would do, and I can tell you the reasons why I would, take this trade or not take this trade or whatever. But the reality is, there's an element of luck in trading. So in that sense, it's kind of like, I hate the analogy to gambling, and I really don't like it when people talk about trading as gambling. But they both have, like, if you're playing blackjack, there is an element of luck, or if you're rolling some dice or whatever. And it's the same in trading, where you can do everything right, you can follow your system to a T, and yet it just ends up being that, you were dealt a loss.
Mhm.
And so I think that's something to keep in mind, that we have this need to control things, and we feel like if we just get better at identifying better entries, then we're going to be better at trading. And in so many ways, trading is really more about learning to lose, learning to let go, and concentrating on the execution, rather than, trying to up your skills. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that you can't get better at identifying really good traits. You can, especially if you have a system that you've been trading for a long time. It's one of the reasons why I like price action systems, because what we found is that when you use indicators, and there's nothing wrong with indicators, but what we found is that typically when you use indicators, you can blame the results, the poor results, on the indicators, throw those away, and then reload and have a new approach with new
Mhm.
indicators.
Mhm.
Whereas with price action, what ends up happening is, if you just look at the price action on the chart, it's going to be really hard for you to get away from that in the future. In other words,
Mhm.
you're going to build on your skills, right? So that's, to me, the way I see it. It's more about getting really good, and one of the best ways to do this is to have a printout of the perfect trade setup for your given strategy. Say this is a buy setup, this is a sell setup, and then what you do is you compare that printout to what you see on your screen. And is this good enough? Is this close enough? Is this what I want? And if that's the answer is yes, then take the trade. And one of my favorite quotes in the Market Wizards book is where, Jack Schwager was asking the trader, I can't remember who it was, but he was saying, what do you think about, should you vary your position size? And he's like, no. He's like, no. You either have a trade that's good enough to take, so you give it, whatever risk you're willing to give for that strategy, or it is not. So it's an on or off thing, right? It's a
Mhm.
it's a yes or no. It's a 0 or 1. It's a very simple, you know what I mean? And yet again, we want to have that control, so we feel like, well, maybe this trade isn't quite good enough, so I won't risk the full percent, 1%, I'll risk half percent or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, I think it comes down to control, and part of what we learn as traders, and part of our maturation process, involves allowing yourself to let it go, to release. Okay, I've done everything I can. I've put my trade in, and I let it go. Actually, this happened last night to me. Right before I went to bed, I found a trade. I really liked it. I took the trade and I let go, right? And I watched it, and it kind of went a little bit in my face. It was on the 30-minute chart. So I knew that when I woke up in the morning, it would be, I'd find out what most likely what the result would be. I mean, it may have lingered for a while, but and then last night, right before I went to bed, I had to look, right? I had to see where it was at, and it was stopped out.
Mhm.
Stopped out. So the trade went for less than 30 minutes. I think maybe, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, which is usually the case with losing trades. They won't last long, right? And so I had to look at myself and say, did I do anything wrong? No, I didn't. I did exactly what I would do. I took a trade that looked good to me, and I would take that trade again. And so boom, everything was lined up. It was really good. And it was just a loss. It was just a loss.
Yeah.
So,
Some of the
that's a
markets
big part
reversed
of
hard
trading.
last night, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was a trade on the Aussie yen, I think.
Mm,
Uh yeah, it was a buy on the Aussie yen. And yeah, and then there was a big move down. Um so yeah, it was because it was 95 or 91. It was 91 something. So it wasn't a one dot something like a euro pair or whatever. Yeah. So
mhm,
it was the Aussie yen, I believe. And that was the result. So what I'm saying is, as an example, what I'm trying to do is not change my strategy, not go back and look at that and say, I mean, I can go back and look at it, but when I go back and look at it, I say, no, it's a good trade. Like there were
yeah.
all three things were lined up and it was fine. It just boom, there was a big spike in volatility, which happens a lot of time. And so that was it. I got stopped out. It was a tight stop. It was like a 20 pip stop or 25 pip stop, something like that. So I knew that it was either going to get stopped out or it was going to probably, in the morning get close to the target because the target's
Mhm,
pretty far away. So yeah, so what I'm saying is, yes, perfection is a real thing. It's because people look at trading as like, when I get good at trading, I'm not going to lose, or I'm not going to
mhm,
lose that often, or I'm going to get to 80% win rate or whatever. And that's not really, what trading comes down to is about learning about yourself, learning how to lose, and learning how to deal with the emotions that creep up when you get dealt these random hands. That's
mhm.
all. That's my approach. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, we were talking about soccer before this, right? And I think,
Yeah.
the greatest scorers in the world, Ronaldo, Erling Haaland, whatever, they miss quite a bit, right? And they don't get down on themselves. They just go back and see, okay, I look like the right thing to do. I was in the right place at the right time, but just didn't go in. So, I'm not going to
Yeah.
get down about it. So I think you have to kind of take the same attitude, right? Like, and you'll never be perfect at anything. So I think you have to just be okay with that's how trading works. You'll lose sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And did you know, and this is funny because you brought up soccer, because I was telling the kids on the soccer team that they did a study of professional soccer players in Germany. Guess how often they score? So giving a scoring opportunity, if you were to guess, what percentage of the time do they score on a scoring opportunity? So scoring opportunity is like, not just a shot on goal, right? It's like,
Mm,
this is a chance to get down there. Yeah. What
maybe,
would
I
be
don't
your guess?
know, 50%,
10.
10?
10,
Wow.
yeah. And
Okay.
so that's what I was telling the boys, like, look, what that means is if we take 20 shots and we're professional level, we might score 2 goals, right?
Yeah.
So just keep shooting, you know what I mean? Like take the shot sort of thing, right?
Mhm,
You don't have to wait for the perfect opportunity. It's exactly, yeah. It's just crazy to think about it that like that these players would be so good and really professional at what they do, and yet they fail 90% of the time. So I think we can learn something as traders. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right. Thanks, Walter.
Okay. Thanks.
All information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not trading or investment advice.